water usage rate in terms of our fee structure. And so we got a proposal to do that. We're also looking at changing the usage rate, which we haven't done in a number of years. And so staff has got some specific recommendations on that, as well as I think background leading up to why they've recommended what they've recommended. But I know that staff is really looking for guidance because there are some big decisions on this. You know, do we want that fixed charge? If so, how high should it be? What's the mix of the rates of fixed versus variable and things like that? And so that's going to be our job to try to, you know, kind of sort that out, talk about it, and give the best guidance we can to staff and set us up so that the board can make a decision. Okay. So I don't know. Yeah, Kathleen.
So as Trustee Hughes said, we put together a PowerPoint presentation, and it covers some of what Trustee Hughes said, and then just gets us to the decision that we have today, and staff's looking for direction on. So in terms of this slide is just showing what the total revenues were contained in the budget. And this is the assumption which we have shared, that we would be seeing $800,000 coming in that we would be transferring to the water capital account. Allison, anything to add? No. Okay. This shows the water capital fund, and again, we're just putting this out there for reference. You can see that here's the $800,000. That's the transfer coming from the water O&M, and then you see the transfer from the infrastructure account of 1.6. These are the bond monies that will be depleted after this year, and that is also what's bringing us to this decision point. As Trustee Hughes said, this is a table, albeit it's a little bit dated because this came out of our 2018 water report, but it's showing the water usage via the water that's purchased from the DuPage Water Commission. And you can see that there's been a decline since 2012, and it has continued to decline. This table here has been updated by Darrell through 12/31 of 2020, and you can see that the budgeted water sewer revenue from 2014 through 2020 did not meet our expectations, and that is despite having a rate increase in place in 2015. So the village has not adjusted its water sewer rates since 2015. And if the village had adopted an indexing policy, let's say that we would increase it with the rate of CPI during that time, it would have increased by 10% to a new rate of $9.09 per 100 cubic feet. And as we noted in the water fund, it assumed $800,000 in new revenue to support infrastructure improvements of $3.1 million in the next 4 years, and the longer time horizon of $500,000 per year for a much needed water main sewer lining improvement program. And as Trustee Hughes said, those have historically been funded through rate increases, or we've been using available bond proceeds. The table below reflects what additional revenue would be received from various potential rate increases. Please note, this has been updated from the materials sent out on Friday. The 1% increase that would estimate about $87,000 was based upon the 2017-2016 numbers in the 2018 water study. We had Steve Noble go through and update that over the weekend and yesterday, and you see the note at the bottom that we recalculated using the actual 3-year water billing, and a 4% increase is roughly about $316,000. We've updated the tables that were in the memo to reflect that $316,000 number. Again, building on what Trustee Hughes said, the water usage is down and it continues to decline, so we wanted to be as conservative as possible with our number. When I mentioned the $3.1 million of improvements, the standpipe improvements, and that's projected for 2023 2023, and that's at $1.1 million. We'll show you another slide and how it was presented to the board and the Finance Commission during the budget. We originally had a portion in 2022 and a portion in 2024. After talking to the Public Works staff, we determined that for mobilization and other reasons, it would make sense to do all the work in the same year. Additionally, we talked about the annual water main and sewer lining program. Included in the materials, the memo that was distributed was a need to put in some type of program, and we have about a $1.1 million need based on the age of our sewer and water main. We think it's best to step into this program, and we are slated to spend $500,000 each year in improvements, and then 6th Street improvements, and that project year is 2024. As you're all aware, there's the MIP work that gets done, and then the utility work via capital, water and sewer capital. And the initial projections used back in for formulating the budget was about $960,000 or $900,000 for 6th Street improvements. After fine-tuning that a bit, we've determined that it's probably going to be closer to 1.5 million because there'll be water main work, and it's the last project for the sewer separation that we're required to do as part of our settlement agreement. Commissioner Waldo had asked a question about what all this looks like post 2024. One of the tasks that staff will be working on is creating a new MIP, if you will, for what happens post 2024. As Trustee Hughes mentioned, we're talking about a fixed infrastructure improvement and maintenance and improvement fee. And the table below has been tweaked a bit also since Friday, and it's just been tweaked a bit to show you at various bi-monthly, we're calling it the IMIF fee, what revenue that generates, keeping in mind that our target goal is about $800,000. And you can see that if you look at the table, $14.50 bi-monthly IMIF fee would generate about $500,000. Here is the table that was included in the materials on Friday. Once again, going through and seeing work that's been completed, work planned as part of the MIP, and then the remaining work that needs to be done, which all totals about 1 million on the water main side of it, and on the sewer main we have about 193,000 a year that we could work to complete. We included this because this slide, because this is the water sewer CIP page, and just so everyone can see, originally there was 600,000 planned for 2022 and 550 in 2024, and we're combining them in the new projections that you had in your packet on Friday and you'll see tonight. So getting down to the question at hand. Understanding the economy that we're in, and that we're trying to, our target is $800,000. Staff used the projected rate increase and looked at the infrastructure maintenance and improvement fee of $14.50 and determined that that would meet the 800,000 target. Once again, I want to point out that these numbers have changed a bit from the Friday numbers. So this number here was 348. It's now 316. This was 31,000. It's now 34,550. And I believe this was even 500,000, and we put the actual number in at 508,950. Understanding that this has an impact on users of the water system, we did put together these charts for each of the proposed concepts. And so we started with the 3 units billed because that is the amount of someone who receives a minimum bill. So that would be the low end user. And you can see that if we were to use a 4% rate increase, the water would be adjusted to $28.61, sewer $429. You add the IMIF of $14.50 for a total bill of $47.40, or a monthly increase of $7.88. We then wanted to determine what the average user would be, and this walks you through what that cost would be totaling $1,000.05.
So Kathleen, it's at Toby. So that's a 10% increase, right, in total?
Oops, sorry.
It's approximately that amount, yes.
Yep.
Okay. Okay, so. Oops. Great. Yeah. Okay, gotta go back. Whoops, that's not back, that was forward. Forgive me, I'm using a different workstation, if you will. Okay, so here we go. So this is the 4%, again, 4% rate increase with 1450 IMIF fee. What we did is we took the, there's a large MIP spreadsheet, and there's a column for basically the street work, and there's MFT, and then a whole bunch of revenues. But what we did is we just took the portion that relates to the water. And so you can see we took in 2021, here's our available, this is the actual available beginning of the year. These were, sorry, got a lot of screens flipping down. The existing revenue, IEPA, debt funding and interest of $219,600. Here are bond proceeds, which were the transfer from the MIP. And then here's the new revenue of $601,650, that a 4% increase on the water rate and the $14.50 IMIF fee, and the total funds that would become available.
Correct, like 601, 650, because it's starts May 1st.
Oh, yes, and the 601, 650 is being used because the rate increase is projected to start May 1st, as opposed to being for the full calendar year. Highlighted here is Chicago Avenue. The original budget projection was at 2.2 million. It actually came in at 1.8, so we had a significant savings there. 8th Street, we had it in the budget at $160,000 for water improvements, and our engineer's estimate is now 388. We'll have a better idea what that number is going to be when we do the bid opening on March 26th. Here is the localized 40,000, which is just a localized drainage number that we have annually, and then here's the debt service for an ending fund balance of 43,140. And then we just took the rate increase and plugged it in for the remaining years. Here is the 1.1 million for the standpipe. You can see what our ending fund balance will be. Here in 2024, you can see this is the first year of the water main and sewer improvement program, plus the increased 6th Street water and sewer of 1.5. And we do have a deficit of 595. However, staff, for both for operational reasons and financial reasons, we could potentially defer this 500,000 for the water main sewer improvement work, because we will have a very busy year with the 6th Street water and sewer project. And we will just be coming off the heels of the standpipe at 1.1 million. And it's a significant project, painting both the interior and exterior of the standpipe. So
Kathleen, we're losing you.
You're losing me? Okay.
I hear you fine, Kathleen. I don't know about anyone else.
Okay. I haven't changed anything on that. And so if we took a 4% rate increase with a $14.50 IMIF fee, we feel that we should be able to support the capital needs from now through 2025. Also included in our recommendation is to evaluate our water rate on an annual basis, and that includes the IMIF fee. We haven't, while we do look at the water rate increase, what we'd like to do is, as part of the budget process, and then again in the first quarter to align with DuPage Water Commission, make it a point that we annually review that. that to see if we need to make an adjustment. And then,
Yeah, Kathleen,
yeah,
have the DuPage Water Commission rates gone up since we raised our rates in 2015?
they don't have a rate increase this year, Daryl.
No, they haven't.
Yeah, it's been nominal. The last couple of years, they've been flat to going up sub-inflation. So the days of the large rate increases have been stopped around 2016, 2017.
Yeah, but isn't that based on City of Chicago? I mean, I could see City of Chicago, who never has any money, wanting to decide to raise rates again.
Well, that's the City of Chicago rate is a component of the whole Water Commission, but sometimes either the Chicago rates haven't been as high, and sometimes they've just absorbed through other revenue sources. They've been able to absorb the Chicago rate increases. But like I said, in the middle of the 2010 decade, Chicago was ramping up rates. Water Commission was passing them on. There are lots of reasons, but the whole rate issue has moderated quite significantly over the last 2 or 3 years.
Okay,
Okay, well-
if I could just restate, Neil, I'm sorry. The culprit is Chicago. The reason for their massive increases was because their finances are a mess.
Right,
so-
and they haven't gotten any better.
and they're still a mess. So they haven't turned to increasing water rates as a solution recently, but it easily could happen again.
Shh.
As a matter of fact, the the DuPage Water Commission contract with the City of Chicago is expiring. I think is it 2023, Kathleen?
It's with what? Yes, we believe so. We've started,
Yeah.
Water Commission has started to have a dialogue with the City of Chicago. We had, I think, one meeting, Daryl, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In early 2020. And then it's been pretty quiet since then. I would imagine we're going to start having some more meetings with them.
Yeah, but the whole DWC contractual arrangement with Chicago expires in the next couple of years. So obviously, you'll have to be cognizant of that. But I know Chicago is concerned about. I know that they're out actively trying. I live in the Joliet area, and Chicago was very hot trying to get the city of Joliet to join to get water from them. So, like I said, I'm sure that at some point there'll be some agreement. I just don't know. We just don't know what it's going to be.
This is Adam Waldo. Just important point I think to make also is that prior to the village moving to a calendar year end to its fiscal year, when the DWC would notify us about these kinds of rate increases, it was typically in November. Am I right on that, Kathleen and Daryl? And so we could get sort of caught unawares in the middle of the fiscal year when we ended in April. But with the shift to a fiscal year that begins January 1st and water rate notifications from DWC coming in November, we should have fairly good matching going forward between what we see from the DWC and what we need to think about in the annual budgeting process.
Yes.
Actually, the DWC rate resets on May 1st right now. So they're still on an April 30th year end.
Right, Daryl, but there is an opportunity. We will know what the financial position of DWC, DuPage Water Commission, is in the fall. So we will be able to be making some recommendations.
Correct.
In line with our budget, which we will revisit within the first quarter of each annual year to make sure, because their rate increases until May 1st. So we would have an idea and we'll just work very closely with the DuPage Water Commission on that.
Kathleen, this is just a question about sort of the current state of the water department. Is it correct to say that the revenues coming in currently cover the operating costs and that the deficiency is really in the capital improvements we need to make over time?
Yes. So right here, you can see that we'll go out of 2021. Just we're at 9.2 million and 7.6, 9.3 million. So yes, we're covering the operational side. But we have not had a water rate increase, and we have had increases in the salaries and benefits of the employees that are charged to that operating account during this time.
Gotcha.
And recall several years ago, we indexed certain rates in the community development department to be commensurate with the rate increases that the employees receive who are providing the service.
Gotcha. And is it sort of correct to assume that the expenses really aren't kind of variable, that there's sort of, as revenue declines or usage of water declines, we really can't cut, staff or other expenses in the same kind of rate that the revenue may be declining, or is there flexibility to do that, as the revenue decreases?
I'm going to defer.
Well, there's some, yeah,
Daryl.
let me comment on that. Yeah.
Daryl.
The, I mean, obviously the issue is that when revenue declines, the biggest variable cost is the cost of water, but unfortunately the cost of water is not the same as the consumption rate. So, you get a little bit of, when consumption declines, you get a little bit of savings on the water, but pretty much almost, quite honestly, most of the other costs are pretty fixed in the water department, other than the cost of water. But it's not for one to one. If you lose a gallon of sales, you don't lose if you lose $1 of sales, you don't lose a gallon of $1 of water consumption. That's where but following up on what you said earlier, it's been fairly predictable. The water fund operations has been able to fund its operating costs. That would include salaries, cost of water. They're able to pay for the EPA debt service obligation that was part of the MIP, like in 2010. But it's the new capital, the capital above that's been the struggle here.
Is there the spread between the water purchase and the water usage? I know we've talked about this in the past. Is that just because of leaks or other, what would be or how big is that spread, and why would there be a big spread between the usage and the purchase?
Well, it's just, I mean, it's more so in the rate making. So I'm not saying about the consent. There is probably somewhere between 10 and 15% water loss, but the spread which I was describing is we don't charge, the water rate's not a pass through. So if you lose it, for every dollar in consumption, I think the DWC rate is the DWC rate's right a little bit less than $5 per thousand. Our cubic feet rate is about $11 per thousand. So consumption goes down, we save $5. You save $5 on the DWC rate, but you're losing 10 or 11. You're losing $11 or $12 of revenue. So that's the disproportion that I was trying to describe.
Okay, so it's basically, it sounds like it's eating into the profitability, if you will, of the.
Correct.
Okay, that makes sense.
Hey, Daryl, I'm sorry, Rob, if I could just ask a clarifying question there. I'm trying to tie the $10 to the rate, which is, I thought was $8.25. So I think you're talking about two different things. Could you just clarify?
Sure. We bill in 100 cubic feet. Okay. But the Water Commission charges us based on thousands of gallons. So it's just a differential on how our meters read versus how that. So that's where, so an $8.25 equivalent, the $8.25 equivalent per 100 cubic feet is equal to $11 per 1,000 gallons. So that was the ratio I was trying to illustrate there. Sorry, I should have, but I probably confused it more than I helped. But
No, that's all good. Thanks, Daryl.
Does that include just pure operating expenses, or is that including capital as well? The $11.
that's the per that, that's everything. So that's basically our the 825 rate, consumption rate, converted to 1,000 gallons instead of 100 cubic feet.
I'm sorry, can I jump in? I want to clarify, because I think these are really important distinctions to make. These numbers we're talking about are revenue. So they're not costs.
Yes.
I think everyone gets it, but just other people may be listening. So when we say that $11 is everything, I'd fine tune it. That's all we have available to cover all of our costs. fixed overhead salaries plus the purchase of water from the DuPage Water Commission. Right? Okay.
So any decline in consumption, if you lose $11, you only save $5 on the cost of water, but then you're out $6 for the differential. That's what I was trying to illustrate.
Kathleen, on these revenue projections that you show, you showed that one chart that showed our DWC purchases going up and down, over the years. So what level or what consumption level are these projections based on?
Steve, do you want to explain how you came up with those numbers?
Thank you. What I was able to do is get the actual billable numbers from the staff there for the last 5 years. But I took the more conservative number from the last, it's essentially the last, an average of the last 3 years, which is very close to that bottom line that you saw on that graph that went up and down. It's pretty much held at that bottom level.
Okay, so I think that's good, Steve, because over the last few years, and we've had a lot of rain. And of course, we always have rain, right? It seems like the last 3 years, it seems like there's maybe more rain than usual. And I know Dan Dieter's looked at this a little bit, but when there's a lot of rain, then people aren't sprinkling. You turn the sprinklers off. So it's good that we base anything on those lower usage rates. I like that.
Yeah, the 5-year average was a little bit higher. The 3-year average was a little bit lower. I took the 3-year to be more conservative.
Yeah. Hey, let me note Commissioner Reisinger is being very good using his Zoom technology. And if the hand raise was intentional, I want to break and let you ask a question.
Yeah, so my question is pretty simple, which is given that the rate was established in 2015, is a 4% increase enough? I mean, do you have confidence that that's the right percentage increase? And or with respect to the maintenance and improvement fee, should that be $14.50 as proposed, or should it be a higher number so we don't have to revisit this in just a couple of years?
Well, that's why we're having our meeting tonight. Staff is proposing the 4% rate, cognizant of, as I said, what's going on in the economy. And the target number was $800,000. We thought that would cover our expenses, and thought that we could take this initial step. And we have different models as well, as you saw in the memo. But the concern was, especially for those who are on fixed income, that we wanted to have an adjustment, obviously be as small as possible. And we thought by setting it at 4% to start with, you can always adjust up from there. But we obviously don't ever want to charge people more than we absolutely need. And I think we're still trying to determine what that balance is.
So we may be on the verge of getting into what people think we should do, but let's just to keep it orderly, let's check to see if there are kind of questions about the data and information before we go there. So just check with the commissioner.
I have a question about the blue graph with the consumption over the years. Are we confident that the purchases over the years, are we confident that the consumption really declined at the same rate as the purchases, and it wasn't that we fixed leaks? Because I remember we did a huge project to fix a bunch of leaks, and that I know that caused the purchases to come down, and it wasn't in the same amount as the consumption, as sort of proof that we had fixed leaks. Are we confident that, if we look at that dip between 14 and 15, when the last rate increase was put in place, that the consumption actually declined at the same rate or relatively close?
I can jump in if you like. Kathleen. Just looking at, as I mentioned, I looked at the last 5 years of consumption, but I also looked at the last 5 years of purchase from the DuPage Water Commission. And when you look at the ratio between what we purchased and then what we ended up selling, it's been within 1% for the last 5 years. It's been very, very steady. I can't say what happened maybe before 2016, but since 16 through 20, it's been almost dead on every year, the exact same ratio.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I guess I have two concerns, I guess. One, maybe this data may be misleading, this historical data, because of leaks that we had, because we were always puzzled why we were purchasing so much more than the consumption. And I'm also concerned that between 14 and 15, let's assume that there was a big drop in consumption. It seems too coincidental that the year we put in a big rate increase, the consumption goes down, and then it stayed at that level. So it seems, it's not necessarily one year was more wet than the other. So my concern is the elasticity of demand, as we're increasing price, is that causing people to use, less water, which to Jerry's point isn't a bad thing, but I think we do have to be sensitive of, that usage may drop more significantly as we increase price, which may have a negative effect and actually cause less revenue than we hope by increasing price. So it's hard to figure out what that is, but if that, seeing there was basically a 5% drop between 14 and 15, if you think some of it is because people think it's too expensive to use water and they stop using it, we may see a similar type of drop in the usage, which is going to maybe sort of have a more negative effect than if you just left the price.
Well, I think, if I could speak for a second, you are correct. What was happening when I talked about the Water Commission increases during that time period, I think that's obviously one of the big reasons why the consumption drop happened in the 14-15 timeframe, was because that's when we were raising rates, DuPage Water Commission was raising rates, and I think that the price of water got very expensive and people just started sprinkling less. I think so. What you did see, and I think this is one of the advantages of why, however you decide to go forward, that the mix and relying more on the fixed charge, this IMIF fee would help mitigate that risk of price sensitivity to water. Because at the end of the day, you're better. That number would be more predictable, because that was what happened in 2014-15. I mean, we took the phone calls from the residents and things like that, and people definitely started irrigating less and things like that back in that time frame.
How much were the increases at the time?
I'll do some looking. Don't hold up the meeting for me. I'll chime in when I can get that information.
I don't have the numbers. They were significant. And
It was
I think,
significant.
yeah, Daryl, what we did maybe 3 years in a row, and from beginning to end, I gotta guess we came close to doubling.
We raised with the beginning of the financing for the IMF or for the MIP, we raised 30%. We raised our water rate 30%. And then right after that, the Water Commission started passing through their rate increases. So that was going on. The Water Commission rate went from it was as low as $1.04 per thousand. Now it's almost $5 per thousand. So you start talking about quadrupling the price of the water commodity. People started using less water.
Right. So just to replay history, we realized we were running consistent shortfalls in the water utility and started trying to address it by increasing our rates. And at the same time, Chicago and the DuPage Water Commission started increasing their rates. So we did as much as we thought we could, but that's why, and I'm going to summarize how I understand staff's approach, trying to get to the point where we finish plugging the revenue gap. And, we're kind of parsing it between changes in the consumption rate and the fixed charge, but we're still trying to finish that job because the pain, the shock to the system was so significant 5 years ago.
We raised, I'm looking at just a couple of milestones. I'm looking at a chart. Hinsdale's water rate in 2009 was 438, and in 2013 it was 708. So in 4 years, our rate almost doubled. The Water Commission rate at that time went from $1.27 to $2.69. So our commodity rate nearly doubled. So people, even the year after that, it went from 708 to 764 in 2014. So you keep laddering these huge these huge rate increases, and you get, like you say, that's, you know, that why that drop off is, and we've kind of plateaued at this level is I believe that people are way more price sensitive to water, in addition to new homes being built with more efficient water fixture. You know, there's that component that's part of this also. It's not solely just rates that I believe are driving the decrease in consumption, but I do think that that dip that's now, you know, in 2018 you were hoping it was a temporary dip, but it's now become a permanent dip, and I think that those rate increases were a big factor.
So, hey, Kathleen, in terms of the prepared kind of materials, is there more that you want to run through, or trustees or commissioners, more questions before we get into discussion?
We should finish this because we have some time sensitivity. So this is the Schedule 6 from your budget book in case you had it. Just wanted to show, here's the updated number of 601, 650 for the transfer to show what the water capital fund would look like at the end of this. And then going on, this is just an updated, it's very blurry, but this was just to show you we updated the CIP at 1.1 to combine the standpipe project. And then similar presentations, here is the step up of leaving the rate at 4% and stepping up the IMIF from 1450 up to 1750, and what that looks like in terms of our needs and the capital work. And you can see that the bottom line becomes better, but here we're getting to a surplus of 321,000, and that's still doing the water main and sewer lining program. And again, trying to be sensitive to have as minimal impact on residents and water users as we can, while still meeting our needs. Staff was reluctant to make this recommendation. And similarly, we went up to a $20 IMIF just to have another option. This generates $1 million. And you can see what the monthly increases are. I'm sorry, go back. Whoops. Because you're going from 1450 up to 1750, we just did on top of the previous 1205. It would be another increase of $1.50 to that, and then here it would be $14.80. So we had provided these memos are all these are the same numbers in your materials. We just again updated them to use the different consumption number with the 316, and then you can see again now here we're sitting with a surplus of $600,000, and we were again comfortable making that type of recommendation. Also in the memo, we talked about a low income waiver. What we looked at was in recognition that the fixed rate fee, in addition to the variable usage fee, we're doing that to maintain and improve the water and sewer conveyance system. The fixed rate fee is based on all utility users benefiting equally, but there may be some people in the community on a fixed income and might find that fixed rate a little bit more difficult to absorb. We did look at an idea of using the HUD guidelines, and this chart here shows that if the board or the Finance Commission were comfortable, we could set some type of parameters, such as if you met the HUD guidelines for a very low income for family of 4 and you were at 45,500 or 72,800, that you could be eligible for, let's say, a 50% discount on the fixed rate fee. We didn't say 100% because, again, the reason we're doing the fixed rate fee is to fund the infrastructure needs moving forward, and anyone who uses the water benefits from those types of improvements. And so, and that was all we wanted to discuss, and we're looking for a consensus or a recommendation to move forward with a rate increase effective May 1. We're recommending a 4% rate increase with a $14.50 IMIF, and the slide adds, again, it's going to be evaluated on an annual basis. In conjunction with our budget process, we will be discussing with the DuPage Water Commission what their forecast is like. By their rules, they need to propose a new rate to its charter customers by March 1st of every year. However, they, like us, would have a better idea when we're, they'll have some idea in the fall when we're developing our own budget. And we can always make adjustments in February or March to our water rate without, as Adam said, without it materially changing our budget for the year. And then direction on whether to offer an income-based waiver for those on a fixed income using the HUD guidelines on a case-by-case basis. So again, it's staff's recommendation to be at this, where we would generate $859,500 of new money each year to fund our needs.
Okay. We may be hard pressed to finish this by the bottom of the hour, but we could probably go a few minutes over. Let's take like 12-ish minutes and get opinions out there. And if we need to wrap up and figure out where that takes us, we'll do that. But anyone can start. Thoughts on what we should do? Ed, why don't you go ahead?
Just a question. I want to really parlay off what Rob was mentioning about separating the water from the capital improvements. It doesn't sound like the water rate of 4% is justified. It does sound like the capital improvement should be higher than the 1450, because that's what we're attributing this to. And also maybe a comment from Kathleen and team, just for any residents that are on, that with this rate increase, there's still no decrease in the capital fund allocation every year, right? That stays status quo where it is.
Repeat the last part of the question, the capital.
There is no planned decrease of allocation from the general fund to the water authority.
Can I decrease? No.
No.
Yeah, so just to make sure everyone's aware of that, that's out there, because I'm not sure everyone knows that this allocation, but it doesn't sound like this proper matching, that the water rate at 4% maybe is justified, but the capital improvement fee should be probably a little higher than 1450.
This is Rob. That's what I was thinking as well. Is, what is there another option that wasn't presented of actually keeping the rate as it is, but increasing the fixed to the $20? I think I did the math. I think for the average consumer, the percent increase would be the same with the proposed 4% and the 14.5, fixed cost. So I don't know if that's another option that we could look at. I think.
The table that I now have up, and that's in your materials, to get to $800,000 of new revenue just funded solely on an IMIF fee would be $23.50.
So
the issue you need that I would recommend you just to keep in mind is that the higher, for lower people, for seniors and lower use people, the higher the IMF fee is, the more the disproportionate percentage their bill is going to go up. So if somebody's got a $30 water bill and their bill's going to go up $20 with a $20 IMRF, that's a lot bigger increase than somebody's bill that's $300 and goes up $20. So there's no perfect mix between, should capital all be covered with this fixed charge, or there should be a mix of it. But that, historically, I mean, all of the capital was in our mix, was supposed to be in the mix to this point now. So this is just this recommendation just carves a percentage about. But there's no right or wrong answer on something like that. But again, the higher the fixed cost, it does affect the lower users quite a bit more.
Valid point, Daryl.
So
25 is the average. 25 units. Was it? Yeah, 100 units of 100 cubic feet. That's the average per month.
average
Yes,
usage?
but
Yes,
That's the average customer.
yeah.
That's
The
the
average
average.
bill is $250 every other month, right? Like roughly.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there's a lot of people that are paying, 30 to, 30, 40, $50 a month. Everybody doesn't pay $240. So,
What's the
it's just,
Every
what's the-
other month, right, per billing cycle.
What's the median bill?
Yeah, what's the median?
I don't know that. I wouldn't know that.
So if I can, I was gonna try to hold off, but I can't help myself. So let me jump in. I want to go hard where some of this discussion is going, where Rob and Ed, I think are heading. I want to point out a couple of things. I believe the problem we need to solve is fixed versus variable. It's not capital versus operating. It's fixed versus variable. I think it's a mistake for us to tie the fixed charge to capital improvements, because our fixed cost problem is bigger than that. So that's, I'll kind of put that out there. Daryl, I get your point about lower income folks, fixed income folks. Let's get the pricing structure right and then solve that problem. Like there are things we can do, but in my view, we don't get anywhere close to solving our fixed versus variable cost versus revenue imbalance problem with that. Because I'm going to do quick math. Call it a $9 million business. Half of our costs are fixed roughly. If we go in at $14.50, it's like 5% of our revenue becomes fixed. We don't have any good insurance. That doesn't provide us any good protection. We're just dabbling. We're not really solving this problem. Now, I get like, can we go all the way to getting revenue structure to match cost structure? No. Could we? Yes, but if the average bill is $250 and half of our costs are fixed, are we going to say you got a fixed cost every other month of $125 and then your usage charge is $125? That I agree is probably too much for, we can't go there, but like $50 maybe, $60. And the one idea I have about softening the blow is that buys some quantity of usage. So people going as $50, I can use up to some number of units. And so for the people, maybe it's $30, so that the average low usage customer really isn't going to see much change. But then for most of the system, we're getting much closer in terms of some structural balance between costs and revenues.
Or how about
So
lowering?
Jerry, are you saying like, so $50 would be the fixed charge, the customer would get each month or every other month?
I am saying I think we should be seriously considering scenarios such as $50. I don't know if that's the right number. I do think $125, which would be academically perfect, is too high, but I think $14.50 is way too low.
See, the thing I like about that is pretty much you can count on that money. If you raise the rates, the variable cost of water, then people can, shut down the water, shut down their sprinkling, and now you're not going to see that you're not going to see the increase from that. But that other one, that's money you can really take to the bank.
Hey, what's a question? And I know this was probably done when we had the study done, but what did neighboring townships do? Darryl, you're always super insightful on what others do. Do they have a fixed cost, and what is it? Not that costs are all the same.
Clarendon Hills.
Off the top of my head, some, a lot of people have, service charges to cover the cost of billing. I see that. I don't know that I've seen fixed costs anywhere near, the $50 level that you're talking about. Just for fixed, with no water usage or anything like that tied to it. I don't know if I've seen anything that high.
I mean, just comparing to ComEd, if you look at their bill next time you get it, it's about, I think, $10 customer service charge.
Yeah.
And they charge a $5 metering fee.
Correct.
Every month. There's your 15, just on your electric bill monthly.
Not to mention your Comcast bill.
Yeah.
Well,
so
that brings up a whole nother discussion. Trying to do changes like that with the number of fees at the time right now of doing the computer conversion would just add a little bit more complexity. That would be difficult to manage until the computer conversion is done.
Yeah, I'm just looking at a total comparison.
It's a lot of. You're right. It's a lot of moving. It's a lot of moving pieces at the same time. And we kind of got it. There's kind of a hard deadline to get the meter, the water billing system implemented.
No, all I'm saying is the $15 is representative of ComEd, and they have millions and millions of customers. So, which they can spread the cost out.
I think generally most utilities, some of the capital charge and some of the fixed cut charges are embedded in the consumption rate. It's not all tied to fixed cost. Cost capital charge. That's not a system that I've seen typically deployed. Not to say that there couldn't be some mix of it, but like I say, which Jerry said, that kind of, to be pure to that math, that wouldn't work, but probably something more that way.
Yeah, and let's face it, ComEd, it's a regulated utility with a rate setting process that's designed to ensure that they cover their costs and a return on capital, but don't exceed what the state give them. So they're not running anywhere close to the risks that we're running in running this business.
But trustee, it's 7:30 and we do have to get to the board meeting, and it doesn't. So I would ask.
But we can. Yeah, we can take a couple minutes here, though, Kathleen. I mean, we just can't start that other meeting early. So let's just talk about next steps. One, what's that? I can't tell who was talking. Okay, so a couple suggestions. Everyone, I think, is well briefed now, and maybe we have set up a situation where, Chairman Waldo and I could, offline have some conversations and try to gauge ideas and appetites, maybe for going more aggressive on this or going with it as recommended. So I'd recommend that as at least, one next step. And then the process-wise, Kathleen, we would consider this a first read, and then we would have a second read and set us up, second read in April and set us up to do something in May. Is that what you were anticipating?
Correct. The effective date of the rate increase would be May 1, so we would introduce the ordinance on April 6th and then adopt it on the 20th.
Okay. So my recommendation would be we do that. Adam and I will get to work. Let's have some conversations. Let's see if offline we can get closer to something that we think has got general support. I don't think we won't do another one of these meetings, but we'll find a way to make sure that we get up-to-date input from the Finance Commission when we do a first reading at the board level in a couple of weeks. How does that sound, everyone?
Trustee Hughes, this is Adam Waldo. I just wonder if we could add one other quick to-do item. I wonder if you'd be supportive of Steve Noble, our finance consultant, trying to benchmark sort of fixed and variable rate mechanisms in sort of peer North Shore and Western suburban communities. If Kathleen and Steve are agreeable to that, I do think that could be helpful in the next steps you're proposing.
Totally agree. Information's all good. But if everyone else is dumb, I don't want to be dumb, but it's still useful to know exactly what they're doing. Totally agree. Okay.
I think one other thing, if we could maybe look at the median numbers, I think that may help in eliminating some of the skew there and just that give us a better representation of the actual impact.
Yeah, I think median and then just some more detail around what the lowest kind of usage cohort might look like. If we can, maybe we can work to figure that out. Okay.
Yeah, I wonder if the lowest people aren't, necessarily low income, but rather people who aren't actually living in the house right now.
Yeah. Okay, so we can work with staff on all of that. Any other asks in terms of information or follow-ups? Okay, we've got a plan. Kathleen, everyone, thank you. Daryl, thanks for coming out of retirement. So I think we need, unless there's anything else, can I get a motion to adjourn?
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Chris, can we just do this by voice vote?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, we stand adjourned. Thanks, everyone.